So we are at the Mills Ranch in Augusta, Montana, and working with them a little. They do trips into the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and they've been wearing the gear since kind of the beginning. So they contacted us, and we're excited to work on a few things and test some products with them, and we're going to drop them off some stuff. How's it going?
How are you?
Good?
Sam?
I'm Sam.
Tucker.
Tucker, nice to meet you.
It's a well-used tour jacket.
Yeah, that's what Sam
That's how it's supposed to be.
Briar Mills, and we're going out to gather horses at our horse pasture.
So actually what we'll do first, I don't know if you can see, there's two horses in the corral, and those are two of those Mustangs. And I gotta push them into that little shed and lock them in. And then back there's the big bunch, and the boys and I will go out and gather them, bring them into the corral. Some of your springtime chores that you're always doing is, like looking at feet, seeing if they have long feet and maybe trimming them. And then I've got a couple new horses that we're just gonna probably saddle up, jump on, see what they are. That's kind of the plan.
Have quite a mixture of them. We have some paints, and this paint here is kind of interesting. He's a halflinger paint cross, and most halflingers are like a palomino color. They're blonde and a light tan kind of color, and he came out as a paint. And we've got lots of different mules that, of course, we don't know what horses they're out of or anything necessarily, but Lila is who Cody's petting right now, and she's a pretty old mule that we've had for a long time, and she's just kind of been in retirement. We're just keeping her around until she's not here anymore. We're going to let her live her days out. And we've got some interesting looking mules over here. This, I don't know what you even call him. He's kind of white. I think his name is Clive. We haven't had him very long. And then our big old white guy there is named Ivan. And he's been working for us for quite a few years. We're not sure what kind of mix he is, but he's been a good boy for us. We've got a white horse back there that has to wear a mask because his eyes are really pink. And when the snow is still on the ground and the sun comes out, it's really hard on their eyes. It can blind them, so we put a mask on him. And then you can just kind of watch in here. You can tell kind of the pecking order by who the leaders are and the bullies. It comes out pretty fast. That's how they show their dominance, is to make the other horses move. So
You've all rode a little bit, right? So I'm not going to get too in detail like we usually do. Make sure when you get on, we'll help you. Don't get your foot too far in the stirrup. When you're getting off, same thing. Make sure your foot's not too far in the stirrup. Okay. And then I'll kind of coach you on handling the horse a little bit. We'll make sure, I'll make sure your cinches are tight and everything's ready. And then we'll just walk around in there a little, play around, I'll be on this guy in there too.
Where's the horse you usually ride?
We're gonna ride a horse in this
Blizzard?
blizzard, yeah. These two Colombians like are freezing to death, but we're gonna make it.
I'm freezing to death too. We're probably gonna get bucked off. It's gonna be fun.
Yours is way longer than mine. Mine's perfect. I nailed it.
So how many do I gotta go up? If you're standing like this and you touch him with this foot, he'll move over this way. You can kind of go ahead and stop. Oh, there you go. And touch him with your heel a little bit. Make him pull his head up.
Okay.
And then touch him with that heel, and you should.
Yeah.
Just kind of scoot over. There you go.
Still standing, got my feet tucked in this ground. No, ain't nothing about to stop me now. I'm still standing. I'm still standing, got my feet tucked in this ground. No, ain't nothing gonna stop me now. 'Cause I'm still standing. Howling winds and driving rain, treading water in this hurricane. So I'm still standing, got my feet tucked in this ground. No, ain't nothing gonna stop me now. 'Cause I'm still standing. Howling winds and driving rain, treading water in this hurricane. I'm still standing, got my feet tucked in this ground. No, ain't nothing gonna knock me down. 'Cause I'm still standing. Howling winds and driving rain, treading water.
I'm Amy Mills. I'm married to Tucker, and we have two sons, Briar and Turk. We all work together in the mountains. I generally ride with the guests on the trail, taking them in on the trips, and then cook and go on day rides with them and organize the groceries and such to go on these trips and do a lot of the booking and bookkeeping.
I'm Tucker Mills. I'm the dad. I generally just kind of make everybody's lives miserable telling them what to do. But yeah, it's just working with guys, getting them lined out and whatnot. I guess that's basically what I do.
I'm Briar Mills. I'm Tucker and Amy's oldest son, and I do whatever they need me to do. Wrangle horses, put up the hay, whatever it is.
Hi, my name is Turk Mills. I'm Tucker and Amy's youngest son, and I wrangle and pack loads in and cubes and whatever, and cut firewood and all that in camp, and that's pretty much what I do.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm going to be Amy's little helper.
I'm still standing, got my feet tucked in this ground. No, ain't nothing gonna knock me down. I'm still standing, howling winds and driving rain, treading water in this hurricane. I'm still standing. Well, I got the fire, yeah. I'm still standing, treading water in this hurricane.
So the first trip in 2018 was probably one of the craziest experiences that we've had together in the wilderness. It was really, really wet, and it rained from the time that we left the trailhead almost until we left, really. And I don't know how many days
That was about 4 days.
Yeah, just rained the whole time.
It was
It was a muddy mess, and so we had to emergency evacuate everyone because those people wouldn't have made it out. They weren't conditioned to that sort of thing. They wouldn't have made it out safely, and so they got flown out, and then we had to take all the stock out, and it was a mess around every corner. We were having wrecks, and
our trail, the trail to get in and out of that camp runs along the riverbed. And when it flooded, it took the trail and everything. I mean, it's not super steep, but it's steep enough that you can't really maneuver it. So we had to cut our own trail to get around, and then there's a spot, you come over Welcome Creek Pass, and there's a spot that we always call the dry lake because it's dry. And after it rained about a foot, it wasn't dry, it was deep. We had horses try and swim across it, and they were almost up to their ears in water. And it was wild. We weren't sure if we were going to turn around and go back to the Forest Service cabin or try and get to the Forest Service cabin. We had enough food because the people flew out, 5 days early or whatever, so we had tons of food, but we ended up deciding that we were going to cut our way around it, which was a huge pain in the neck. But it was pretty wild. Just the amount of water that amassed over that short period of time. We were literally, when the people were getting evacuated, the mountainside that the camp is like right under, we were hiking along it, and there was just water shooting out of the mountainside because the ground was so wet it couldn't hold anymore, and so it would drain down from the mountain and then shoot out of a gopher hole or any kind of hole in the ground. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, the creek that's down at the bottom looked like the Amazon. I mean, it was so full of water. But yeah, we had another guy working for us at the time, and he was taking a string out, and he was walking and leading them. And we were going through this really thick spot of undergrowth timber, and his saddle horse got bogged down. And then he started screaming like we thought that something was really wrong with him, and they just kept piling on top of each other. They were rolling off the trail. It was terrible. I've never cut a lead rope in my life other than those days. Usually we can cut the twine that's on the back of the pack saddle that they're tied to, but you just couldn't get there sometimes. So I ended up cutting two, and I don't know how many Turk cut, but
it was kind of a wild, and it's cool now that it's over. When it was happening, it wasn't very cool, but when they would we had them bogged down, like, I don't know, it probably happened 20 times that day, and that takes a lot of time because they bog down, and then you got to pull their loads. Sometimes you got to pull their saddle off and try and get them to stand back up and fight their way out of the mud. And so that really exhausts your animals, your horses and your mules. And so they were pretty tired. And that trip usually only takes us to get in or to get out. It usually only takes like three and a half hours. And it took us 9.5 hours to get out that day because of all the water and the bogs, and the animals got tired. And then we got like 5 minutes out from the trailhead or 10 minutes out from the trailhead, and a bunch of the horses just broke loose and just took off. We lost them all. They were running down the road. They were going everywhere. It was pretty cool. So we were on a White River trip, and we weren't we didn't have a lot of people on the trip, I don't think. But it was me and, was Court there? It was me and Briar and a kid named Court. And we were all sleeping in this tent that we call the Boar's Nest. It's the crew tent in White River. And so we're all sleeping in there. And we had all just gotten into bed. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and we were leaving the next morning. So you got to get up at 3 or 3:30 the next morning. And we heard these, you can hear the bells, the hiker bells from a long ways away, and you always think, the first thing that comes to our mind is horses. Because we bell our horses and they're kicking loose. So you think, oh no, the horses are coming back. This sucks. But it was these hikers coming in, and they came into the cook tent and talked to Mom about this bear that had been following them. And so they were going to camp at the end of our, right on the perimeter of our camp area. And
they were pretty shook up. about the bear, and they couldn't figure out why it was following them. And we were like, yeah, I don't know either.
And Briar and I walked up to Mom and we said, well, if they want to, since there's not very many people here, they can just sleep in the boar's nest because there's extra cots and nobody's here. And we never like visually saw them because it was dark, but we could smell them from like a mile and a half away. And the second that we figured out they smelled that bad, we regretted everything we had said. And we were taking deodorant. Somebody had deodorant. We were throwing it around to each other, trying to like put it on your lip right underneath your nose, and it didn't work.
You instantly knew what the bear was smelling.
Yeah, you could tell. Like it was.
No, for real. That's definitely why that was happening. It's because they stunk so bad.
Yeah.
But
yeah, they were rank. It was
again, one of those things that's funny as a story, but at the time it was terrible.
Yeah, she really did suck. But yeah.
So I guess my dad had worked for a lot of outfitters as he was in his 20s, 30s, and the first outfit that he worked for was the guy that owned White River at that time. That would have been in 1960 and 61. And he just worked for him, was packing for him. And then like a number of years later, it would have been in the late 70s, he acquired a hunting camp. That's how it started, with one little tiny hunting camp. And then a few years later, I was still in high school, and we started taking some summer trips and doing that. Weren't very big yet at all. And then we just kind of, we grew. We had bought a different hunting camp and doing quite a few more summer days. And then we sold that hunting camp and bought White River in 1999, I guess. So we've been in there. And it's pretty interesting because that was the first place Dad ever worked. And then we ended up getting it, 50 years later or whatever, how long it was.
The first time you went into the mountains, you went to White River.
Yeah. And it was what was really
what we have now.
Interesting was it was a long trip and a rough season. So yeah, the Bob Marshall would be. So our White River camp is basically in the geographical heart of the Bob Marshall. So we're right square in the middle of it. And it basically runs from Highway 2 at East Glacier to Rogers Pass on Highway 200. So it's
Million and a half acre complex.
Lots of country, yeah. I've actually, doing this all my life, there's still areas that I've not been to. I haven't been to some of the South Fork of the Flathead. There's a few places like on the west side of Montour, there's trailheads over there I've never been to. So it's huge.
And our camp is like a lodge. It's a tent lodge, basically, because we can set it up in June and stay there until, we stay in there until about the third week of October. We could stay later, but we're not brave enough.
Yeah, the pass gets, even the way it is, we come out in mid-October and we still have to shovel over the pass half the time. So last year we were still in Cody, we had to shovel.
Going in
the last time to pick it up and coming out the next day, and there was 5 and 6 foot drifts we had to shovel through. I think if we stayed any later, we might not get through there at all. On some years, it's pretty incredible.
It's something else, yeah.
Yeah, we get a lot of people that'll call and ask about it, and we'll mention the Chinese Wall, and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And then other people know exactly what it is, and that's their destination, is to see it.
Yeah. Or someone's told them about it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Nice job.
It was cold. It was awesome. It was great. It was awesome but cold.
We rode
For a
horses in a
spring.
blizzard. And look it's like a blizzard right now, and we're gonna go bar hopping in downtown Augusta.
We got invited back, so that's good.
And apparently there's like the deepest cave in the US, in the Bob Marshall, which will be on the next Smith and Road video.
Yeah, absolutely. Next week.
When we'll be spelunking in the deepest cave in the US.
How did you think? Do you think it was warm enough?
I think you took off your coat. Be good.
So guys, this is her first week in Montana.
After being like 95
She's got snowflakes on her eyelashes.
It's so cool, yeah.
It was amazing, but cool. It was fun. It was worth it.
Awesome.
I